Hello dear viewer and welcome back to Skyrim, where we can become the hero of the land by picking a lot of flowers and mushrooms. Today's build is all about crafting, as it is a paragon example of a worshipper of Zenitar, the god of crafting and honest work. It just so happens he is also a remake of my good old artificer build, so the whole playthrough is about making stuff. So much so we mostly abandon weapon, armor and magic skills. We use a lot of magic powers, but they all come in the form of items, staffs, scrolls, thrones, spider scrolls, and the steam breath of the visage of Mzand helmet. Thanks to the excessive use of alchemy and enchanting, this character can eventually become a marvel of versatility, playing like a sneak build when you need it, like a completely overpowered mage when a large group of enemies needs to be dealt with quickly, and like a punching boxing champion of doom if you are in a mood for simplicity. All that with a pinch of a conjurer with 2 or 3 dwarven constructs at his disposal. He is almost completely inept at spellcasting and combat by himself. He needs to create gear that enhances or enables those abilities. So we have our rule of never using spells. I had to bend this rule a little bit for the create spell from Tonal Architect. It allows you to make some superbly powerful staffs you can empower with Dwemer. Clutter items. Staffs are a major part of the combat style. Oftentimes you will be running with 2 of those, like when you want to stack a lot of flames after burn on a target, or when you want to cull down an entire group with 2 staffs of chain lightning, or maybe 1 chain lightning and 1 wall of storms. All destruction staffs are quite useful when you can craft some ungodly overpowered fortified destruction potions. On the roleplay side of things, the Artificer is an Imperial who has always wanted to learn magic. Because he's been unable to learn any proper combat skills, he soon discovers he is completely inept at spellcasting too. Unfortunately, his only talent seems to be in creating things, ingenious devices and contraptions. Embittered and impatient with his own ineptitude, as well as with the dirty politics of the Synod, he leaves that guild and Cyrodiil for Skyrim, where he hopes to learn all there is to learn about crafting and technology from the remains of the most inventive culture in history, the Dwemer. But I think I have introduced him enough. Let the games begin! It is a really weird playstyle, coincidentally quite similar to the last build we had on the channel. Sorry if you are a regular viewer, I promise next time we will have something much less crafting heavy. Nevertheless, the devil is in the details, and this amazing, inventive and versatile artificer will play quite differently to the warlock from the last video. One thing you may want to do to start your collection of useful scrolls is to sneakily infiltrate Apocrypha. Apocrypha locations tend to yield a lot of scrolls as loot, and sometimes staffs too, and spell books. For that you only need a decent fortify sneak item and some fortify sneak and invisibility potions. Most enemies in Apocrypha are rather slow and not too perceptive. Even if you can't reach the end of the dungeon, you should definitely be able to grab some scrolls and maybe spell tomes before you are repelled. You can learn spells from the tomes, it's just casting them that's a bit too much for the Artificer, but simply knowing them allows you to craft the appropriate staffs, which you should do at first opportunity. Luckily, in Anniversary Edition you don't need to deal with Master Neloth in order to access a staff enchanter. There is one in Mirwatch, an easily accessible player house. The place will also yield a lot of useful ingredients and some ingots, so you may as well get to Mirwatch ASAP and then travel to Solstheim for a few quick Apocrypha raids. A skillful follower will be quintessential to the early game then, when you are almost guaranteed to face challenges beyond your capabilities. Since you know you're neither a real mage nor a real warrior, as soon as you have a few staffs, you have one rank of silent movement in sneak, the fortify sneak enchantment, and can make some fortify destruction potions, you can go for a crafting session and try to speed level your enchanting so that you can craft your tremendously powerful Iron Man suit. I mean, a double enchanted dwarven armor set. Generally brace yourself for a serious crafting session every few dungeon crawls. You really need to enhance your skill and attributes with potions, and you need your double enchanted stuff rather soon in the playthrough. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's have a look at the mods. We need a few. Wintersun, of course, to worship the god of OP crafting Zenithar. Ordinator, Vokri, and Vokras will create immensely interesting perk trees for us. You need all three of them, Ordinator, Vokri, and Vokras, loaded in this exact order. Otherwise, this build will not work as presented here.
Don't make me repeat that in the comments.
You will need a lot of inventory space with this one, so bandolier, bags and pouches is strongly advised. It also grants an extra slot for enchantments in the form of a book holder. I used one and everything else was just vial holders and pouches for extra carry capacity. Tonal Architect introduces some very interesting spells. We are only after one, the Create spell, which allows you to create some unique and perfectly balanced dwarven scrap staffs. With the build near completion, your best makeshift staff will hurl dwarven mini-nukes at things, no joke, at which point you have essentially won the game. Then we have a few mods you could live without but are highly recommended. Woodcutter Revised offers you the ability to craft many things, including furniture and crafting stations, so it guarantees the ultimate crafting experience for you, but most importantly it has a scroll crafting system allowing you to make copies of the scrolls in your inventory even if you don't know the spells. It's a very neat system and somewhat well balanced compared to many other scroll crafting mods, so go grab it. Some Vokri perks will make your scrolls insanely powerful, so the more scrolls you can copy the better for you. Then we also use Reliquary of Myth, mainly for what it does to the ethereal staff. It allows you to permanently enhance the attributes, damage output and resistances of the ethereal staff dwarven summons. It's again perfect both for the combat efficiency and roleplay of an inventor obsessed with the Dwemer technology. There is also a few mods used mainly for cosmetics, Dwemer Goggles and Scouter for that steampunk look, although you can use it to zoom in the first-person camera or detect life effect too. Legendary Skyrim crossbows to install a scope on the crossbow, and a nice retexture of Visage of Mzand, simply called Visage of Mzand, my version by Xtudo, links in the description. Some of these mods weren't even a thing when I first made my artificer, so it's really high time to recreate him with this load order. With Beyond Skyrim Bruma, I can also finally give him the most realistic and immersive hairline. For the race we go for an Imperial. With Aetherius these guys get extra points to all three attributes at start, which is going to be extremely helpful considering our weird attributes ratio, which is simply all stamina. We will rely on enchanted items and fortify health potions for health, and we need no magicka. Meanwhile, high stamina will make carrying all those staffs and scrolls and dwarven clutter much easier. But then we also like punching people, which with Vokri perks is much more effective with high stamina. Basically, our damage output will depend a great deal on stamina. Finally, we use the Visage of Mzand and the weird power it grants us, the Breath of Juak. This power deals a bit of damage to everything in front of you, and you pay for it in stamina, not magicka. The breath power can be spammed and keep going even when you cast spells or punch things. So even though it doesn't deal that much damage, it will slowly but steadily soften all your enemies as you use all your other talents and contraptions to take them down. Breath of Mtruak also deals more damage when a Fortified Destruction potion is in effect, a potion you will eventually mass produce. The in-game description won't change, but I have tested it many times. Yes, the Breath of Mtruak is improved by a Fortified Destruction potion. All in all, stamina does a lot for us. We need as much of it as possible, but if you struggle in the early game, up to 5 levels put in health should also be more or less okay, I guess. The Steed Stone will be mighty helpful. The extra carry weight will pay off in the form of a few more staffs at hand at all times, but also we are going to wear a full set of heavy armor with only one perk in heavy armor skill. We need all the crafting perks, so this stone is our only hope for removing the movement speed penalty of heavy armors. And of course, on top of all that, we need to worship Zenithar in Wintersun. He enhances almost every aspect of this build. His blessing improves your smithing by a bit, which is nice for our armor. The follower ability will make all your crafting skills up to 20% more effective, and that impacts almost everything about you. The power of your Fortified Destruction potions, potency of all your potions actually, and enchantments. Meanwhile, at 100 favor with the Devotee ability, you will be able to barter with Zenithar directly. If at this point of the playthrough you still need some more magic staffs, pre-filled soul gems, or enchanted items and effects, you will be able to buy them from the god of barter himself. His inventory and barter gold will reset each time you pray, so finishing your loadout should be super easy. Yes, barely an inconvenience, I had to add that. Let's take a look at the skills and perks. I consider the build complete at level 52. It requires 51 perk points, but you will gain experience quite fast and from a wide array of skills, so you should hardly notice the difference. Let's therefore start with the least important ones. If you decide against any of these here, it shouldn't mess up your overall experience too much. You need mastery in heavy armor and archery, as well as mastery and both ranks of silent movement in sneak. Also, these few perks will make your early game a tad easier, since you cannot yet fully rely on powerful potions and enchantments at that point. Both ranks of silent movement will eliminate any chance of detection by hearing, which allows you to use your superb legendary enhanced dwarven crossbow to a much greater effect. Then lockpicking is used for all the beautiful Valkyrie perks, allowing you to hotwire and control dwarven automatons. As soon as you have the hotwire perks, head to the nearest Dwemer ruin and recruit the strongest brass SOB you met there. It will be of major help and make your entire experience smoother. We also need a handful of perks in speech, namely Mastery, Kinship, and Salesman, to facilitate the early game acquisition of filled Grand Soul Gems and selling off all these weird items and potions you make just for training. Buy filled Soul Gems often, at least before you can grab the Black Star or the Star of Azura. Your crossbow and staffs will need frequent recharging. We also want to enhance our punching with the unarmed combat perks from the light armor tree. Iron Fists will grant you extra unarmed damage based on your current stamina. Your total stamina with the complete build will go beyond 1000, so it's around and about 110 extra damage on each punch with full stamina. For roleplay reasons, I only allowed myself to start unlocking these amazing perks after I was able to make a double enchanted suit of legendary dwarven armor, just so I can pretend that this punching prowess is also a feature of my armor more than my own skills. And that overpowered suit wouldn't be possible without many perks in all the crafting skills. First, smithing. In smithing we need dwarven smithing for obvious reasons, arcane blacksmith to be able to improve the visage of Mzand and possibly the spellbreaker, and armor padding for an extra enchantment slot. Yes, its effects will be weaker than normal, but with your crafting loop, your Zenithar buffs and whatnot, the fortify enchanting potions of your making can reach a buff of 100% extra efficiency, so I think it's okay to use armor padding in this particular case. In enchanting we need mastery, weapon enchanter, armor enchanter, regalia enchanter, extra effect, of course, and then the entire staff branch, scroll sage, all ranks, scroll hunter, and spider Hunter. All these perks will enhance some vital part of your combat style. Not only you get your double enchanted armor set, but your scrolls will be 3 times stronger than normal and your staffs will be 50% stronger. This means more damage on everything, including the scrolls of firestorms and your perfectly balanced Fat Man, I mean the staff of pure fire. The complete build can deal over 900 damage with firestorm scroll and almost 800 with the pure fire makeshift staff. Now it's time for the freaking alchemy tree.
Frickin' laser beam!
And boy, oh boy, does it do stuff. It does so much stuff. It's clearly too much to cover in this video, but I will do my best to highlight the essentials. First and foremost, we obviously need extra efficiency for both potions and poisons, so Benefactor and Poisoner are unlocked. All ranks of concentrated poison were also taken because we can make some really awesome poisons. Paralyzes poisons, for example, were used quite frequently. Our crossbow has a shock hazard effect on it. We poison our bolts with paralysis and wabam! Pretty much an insta-kill. Like an overtime kill, but still guaranteed kill, yes, that's what I meant. Weakness to magic poisons can make the affected enemies way more susceptible to your steam breath and that shock hazard effect and your staff spells and whatnot. Quite a lot of fun and functionality comes from the elemental oil branch of perks, courtesy of Vokras mod. With Alchemist's Cookbook you should go for Paralyzes oil. This leaves a little splash of paralyzing oil on the ground, which triggers when it's hit by a projectile or a spell. Also by the breath of Nchuak. Since we want to spam the breath at all times, the puddles of oil around you will also explode at all times. This creates a lot of mayhem with the Walking Disaster perk. This one spawns random oil puddles underneath you at random in combat. You will see a lot of explosions at this point, sometimes causing fury and panic, sometimes paralyzing enemies, sometimes simply dealing some extra elemental damage. It's perfectly chaotic and balanced. We also want Green Thumb to pick up more ingredients and double Toil and Trouble to produce more concoctions from those same ingredients. The latter should be at some point combined with the Cinderion's Serendipity quest reward ability, which gives you a 1 in 4 chance to create yet another potion from the same batch of ingredients, meaning you no longer need to worry about running out of potions. Heaps of different potions are going to be useful for you, and I really can't walk you through all the useful recipes here. Do your own goddamn research. A few notes to start you off though. As always, remember it is very easy to make a large batch of Fortified Destruction potions from Nightshade and Glowing Mushrooms. Add some wheat to the mix and you will get a potion that fortifies your destruction and health by a lot. But as of Anniversary Edition there is an even scarier specter of OP looming on the horizon. It's a potion that fortifies your destruction spells while also allowing you to absorb all incoming spells. This can be done with some very rare exotic effects you can obtain only by buying them from Khajiit caravans. Comberry and Daedra Venin, for example, have a spell absorption effect of 50%. It's always 50% no matter your skill, but Daedra Venin also has a Fortified Destruction effect. The Fortified Destruction on Daedra Venin is 20% better than normal, hence you can obtain potions reaching a 300% buff to your spell power. This is all well and good, but what if we use 2 different potions with the spell absorption effect? Different as in not stacking in your inventory menu. Maybe you have a batch of spell absorption plus Fortified Destruction potions and another of spell absorption and resist fire. Well, now both these spell absorptions are in effect and Bob is your uncle. No spells can hurt you. Anyway, before this turns into an alchemy guide, let's move on to the gear. There is quite a few staffs you may need. Early on, 2 staffs of flames can be used to stack the afterburn effect and deal with most normal enemies quite adequately. The ethereal staff will provide you with upgradable summons, and if it fails, it spawns Dwemer Clutter you can use to upgrade those summons or to upgrade your makeshift Dwemer staffs. And of course you can't get wrong with Chain Lightning. I like using 2 of those at the same time for some extra power. The only weapon we need, and it's going to be effective even with no perks in archery, is the enhanced Dwemer crossbow enchanted with 2 wonderful Summer Mist effects: Fire Damage Lingering and Shock Hazard. The former deals fire damage over time until the end of the fight, the latter leaves a patch of shock wall underneath targets. Combine that with a paralysis potion as mentioned, and you win. And here is the list of frequently used scrolls. Obviously there is much more you can use. These here just seem most fitting or combine with something that's already in the build. The passive damage of Shock Cloak, for example, will have its range increased by Scroll Sage and Fortified Destruction potions. Its damage can reach 150 points per second. Quite often the enemies will die before you even have the chance to see them. That's why I used Cloaked Spiders to stack even more ongoing damage on those poor buggers. And of course Firestorm is, well, Firestorm, a giant explosion of fiery death. Now for the items to wear. We need the Visage of Mzand, of course, the Spellbreaker perhaps, Fortify Health and Fortify Stamina on the Dwarven Plate Armor, Fortify Unarmed and Fortify Archery on the Brawler's Dwarven Gauntlets, Fortify Unarmed and Link Health and Stamina on the Ring, Fortify Unarmed and Fortify Archery on a Book Holder, Amplify Destruction and Fortify Health on a Necklace, Fortify Sneak and Fortify Speed on the boots, Amplify Destruction and Area Drain Magic Resist on our armor padding. So the Spellbreaker isn't that important, but it's fun with Reliquary of Myth. On a timed block it can reflect incoming spells back to the spellcaster. Late game, slowly approaching enemies with your Lightning Cloak active, your Spellbreaker raised, and while spamming your Steam Breath can really convert you into a slowly approaching ball of doom, especially with all that explosive oil constantly leaking off your armor. There is a lot of Fortify Unarmed and Archery, of course, but also Health, which turns you into quite a tank despite almost no perks in heavy armor and no health in level ups. The wonderful Link Health and Stamina enchantment is very rare. You may need to pray to Zenithar a lot or punch some traders to obtain it, or simply use another little mod, Guaranteed Locations for Summer Mist, a mod I made a while back for exactly these situations. The Link Health and Stamina can bring your total health to about 600. Not bad for a complete wuss. We of course have 2 instances of Amplified Destruction, amounting to another 100% increase in destruction spell damage, and to top that off, an instance of Area Drain Magic Resist on our padding, which applies weakness to magic to all nearby enemies, which stacks with weakness to magic poisons, of course. Since crafting is such a huge part of the build, of course we want to create all that while wearing a powerful set of crafting items with all the possible slots used for Fortify Smithing and Fortify Alchemy. This time around I also added Fortify Potions enchantment to that, which extends the duration of ingested potions, and 1 item of Generate Soul Gems, which, as the name suggests, generates soul gems in our inventory at random intervals. Filled soul gems too, so you can craft and reload all your stuff. You may even consider another loadout for stealth missions with as much Fortify Archery, Fortify Sneak and Fortify Sneak attacks as possible. Sky is the limit when you are not afraid to break the game with unbridled crafting. To wrap the build up, you may consider acquiring some Black Book powers, namely Companion's Insight to deal less damage to your Dwarven or Human companion, Mora's Boon to increase your chance of surviving in the harder bits of the playthrough before your double enchanted suit is ready, and Galvapanting, an ability from a quest in the Tunnel Architect mod. It grants you a small chance of finding Dwemer Clutter on slain enemies. You need that to enhance your staffs and summons. Oh, and of course, as mentioned, Sindarion Serendipity, yes, to create even more potions. Well, okay, this video has become a frantic mess of random tips about breaking Skyrim with crafting, but it's basically what the build is about. It is also about flexibility. After a preparation phase, when you need to be very careful in your travels and rely on a follower for protection, all the effort in learning will pay off manifold with some hilarious explosions and extremely efficient punching, combined with an ability of stealth takedowns in a full suit of heavy armor. This is one of my personal favorites on this channel, and I am rather glad I remade it with some extra powers and combos. Brings back good memories and induces some maniacal laughter, just as I like it. Be a good viewer and leave me a like, and perhaps subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. Go to the PC Outcast's channel to watch his Zenithar build. Consider a donation, subscribe star is an option, and the super thanks button here on YouTube is also an option. And that's it for this mess. We will see each other again then. Bye bye.